Oh, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Dio Pouerie. Hello, how are you?
Hello, hello, hello. So good to be on here, Dr. Roberson. It is such a pleasure. I'm so excited about our conversation today and so excited about everything that you're touching and doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just so happy you took time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy with ministry and in the marketplace, so I just really appreciate you. And I know it's going to be a blessing to so many people watching around the world. And so, for the few people who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dio Pouerie. I do operate in multiple lanes like many of you. I just refuse to be put in a box. And so in the marketplace, like Dr. Roberson mentioned, I am the chief revenue officer for about 7 different companies here in Orlando. We have some of the fastest growing businesses in Central Florida, which is super exciting, into the 6, 7, and 8 figure size. And then I'm also a pastor. And so I pastor with my amazing and gorgeous wife, Dio Pouerie. We pastor a church here in Orlando called Acceleration Church. And there we just are super passionate about the message of Jesus and also how the frameworks just come alive from inside the Bible about how we can accelerate in life and in business.
That is so good. And I know our topic today is life and business acceleration. I'm really excited to talk about that. But before I do so, I know the first time we met, we talked about, my son being an athlete and shifting to do something else, thinking he was going to go one direction and went a different direction. Tell us about what happened with you and why it was so important to have a backup plan as an athlete.
That's such a good question. It's one for up until recently, it was so hard for me to even talk about this. But yeah,
Wow.
so when I was in college, even before college, of course, but my whole focus was playing baseball. My whole identity was all about playing professional baseball. I trained all the way through D1 college. I played for the University of South Florida. But my sophomore year, I ended up suffering a devastating injury. I ended up really hurting my arm, my rotator cuff, and then I also ended up hurting my elbow thereafter. And so baseball was no longer a part of the future, if you would. It was very, 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 very difficult to even consider getting into the professional level. And I went through a really hard depression. Ended up living out of my car, was homeless for a few months because my mind couldn't conceptualize
Wow.
not being who I thought I was going to be. And so, because I lost my identity, if you would, they just sent me into a spiral downwards. And thankfully and prayerfully, I ended up attending Zig Ziglar. He had a speaking engagement at the college, and it was a free event. I had no money, but I attended because it was free. And he just began to speak. And of course, him being a Christian, he did mention God throughout his message. And it just kind of brought me back to there is hope. There is a way for me to turn this around. And so thankfully after that, I just literally would go to Barnes and Noble and Borders. And every single day I began to just absorb as many books as I couldn't afford to buy them. But I would sit there and just purge and just read all the life improvement, books on inspiration, empowerment, like anything I can get my hands on to just shift my mind to where there is more. And that allowed me, along with my faith, it allowed me to just get back into the groove and really start focusing then on my future from an intellectual perspective, from a professional perspective. And yeah, and so that's why I do emphasize to all the athletes out there who might be watching, those of you who are family to an athlete, an aspiring athlete, 100%. Like encourage, push, challenge, motivate, like do everything you can to achieve that dream, but do not do not just go blind to the education component. Don't go blind to building up a characteristic, a skill set that can be carried on beyond the field. Because
So
the
good.
moment it does, right? Because the moment it changes and shifts. Even professional athletes, Dr. Robes, even professional athletes oftentimes after their career, they're so lost
Right.
because they don't know anything else.
That's
And
all they've known from little boys on
that's all.
and little girls on is sports.
And they get stuck.
Yeah.
They get stuck, and the money goes away, disappears. Friends disappear, and so I just strongly encourage again, if you're connected to an athlete, if you yourself are an athlete, by all means, focus on becoming the best without a doubt, but do not negate the other gifts that God has already blessed you with too.
That is so good. And I know somebody needed to hear that today, whether it was a parent, I know even parents,
Yeah,
who I know from my son playing college with or dealing with that with their kids. They didn't, that's all they thought. They thought they would go to the next level. They're going to the league. And then what happens whenever you didn't concentrate on school and get that education, you didn't make it to the league, or you made it to the league and got cut. What's next? So we've talked
exactly.
about that. That backup plan is so important. What else are you
Absolutely.
passionate about? And I think starting that early in life with your kids, what do you like to do? My son picked up a camera. And so, yeah, I think it was maybe a sophomore in college when he picked up a camera. And that's where he started his love of film. And
Amazing.
so he wasn't passionate about football anymore, but he became passionate about film. So
Amazing.
even introducing our kids to so many other things and to let them know it's not all about sports because there is an after life, even if you do make it to the pros. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
He picked up a camera and he has that and he cultivates
Yeah.
and become the best with that as well. Like, put time into it. That's the cool thing about athletes. There's a discipline, there's a dedication that exists inwardly. Like, I need to compete, I need to become the best that I can.
Right.
Use that same desire and insatiable passion, just transition it to one of your core skill sets as well.
That is so good. I love that. I love that. And just get a passion. Find something that you're help your kids.
Right.
And so, okay, so today we're talking about life and business, and we're actually going to do some more with this backup plan later on.
Yeah.
So you guys stay posted, stay checking us out because we're going to definitely talk about that even more on another
Awesome.
platform. So, but today we're talking about life and business acceleration. Tell us where that topic came from.
Yeah, it came from it really, and I don't want to sound too spiritual, but it was something that really hit my spirit in the sense of frameworks to help enable acceleration. What is acceleration? It is literally being able to move an object, a force, something to move that thing forward at a certain pace, at a certain velocity. If you look at the actual equation of it, it's going to have the variables of weight, it's going to have the variables of speed, and it's going to have the variable of distance. And so, how do you take this weighty thing and carry it forward at an accelerated rate, at a high rate of speed? And so, that is my entire life's work now is really geared around that mindset. I do it both for businesses. I work and jump into businesses, and I will literally include the strategies and the tactics on how to shift the strategy and shift and mobilize product and mobilize the teams and figure out where it is that we can begin to tweak so that we can move this object forward faster. And I also do the same with ministry, where we're focused utilizing the word of God. We're focused on building strategies and frameworks on how to get people to accelerate. And of course, I do it on a professional level as a coach as well, where again, I just teach people how to think to help themselves move forward faster. So the whole premise, the whole idea became from the idea of how do we take something that is perhaps stuck? How do we take something that perhaps is moving much slower than the desired speed? And then what do we build around it to get that thing to move in the direction and at the pace that we need it to?
Wow, that's so good. So, I think that when you say acceleration, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because they want to move fast, but they don't know how to move fast. How do you start even, sharing that with somebody to, how to accelerate? How do I move faster? I know in sports, and you're an athlete as well. So, in sports, when you're at that starting block, I think that is where, most people can win the race or lose the race by how fast they accelerate. So, how do you teach someone?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And there's so many different frameworks that I like to work out of. But even to your example, at the athlete that is sitting at the stand at the blocks ready to take off, with that example, or we can even speak about somebody who just suffered a devastating loss in their life, whether it's
Yeah.
somebody who they love or perhaps a separation in a relationship. It could be somebody who lost a job or is in transition of their job. What do you do and how do you cause yourself to move forward? And so the first thing that I would always tell people is to focus and look at the mindset. What is your thinking? Because our thinking is going to determine how we feel. And a lot of times we look at how we feel, thinking that we can manage how we feel and try to attack how you feel to change your feelings. But you can't change your feelings until you change your mindset.
Wow,
You
that
can't
is really
change
good.
your emotions until you change your thinking. It's going to be a temporary adjustment if you just focus on the emotions and not the thinking. The belief system, that underlying the substratum belief system and thinking is what's going to determine that emotion. So even if you're at the starting block or going through a separation, the first step to accelerating is making sure that you have the right mindset. I can do this. I am. I like what Tony Robbins says. He says continuous and never ending improvement. Meaning
Wow,
if
that's
you come
good.
if you come out of a place that's stuck and you've been slow or you've lost, like that is not how your story ends. And so a lot of people begin to pause and not move forward and spin their wheels because they are convincing themselves that this is where their story ends. And it's just a chapter.
Mhm.
All it is a chapter in the book. And so once that mindset gets right, then we could begin to talk about the measurable ways of pushing forward. And I can dig into this all day long. And I know we only have about a short amount of time, but I would tell you that once you have that mindset, now begin to think about how am I going to measure my progress? I like to give the example of Facebook. Let's talk about Facebook. We all know Facebook.
Right.
When Facebook first started its business, they created what they called a North Star. And their North Star was this is what we're going after. This is what our focus is going to be. And they were very clear on what that North Star was. Their North Star was every person who comes onto this platform, we want to make sure that within 7 days, they have 10 different engagements. Now,
Mm.
notice how clear that is. Like their goal, they're sitting in a room as directors, executives, and they're saying, for this to be successful, we want to make sure that within 7 days, every person who comes on here has 10 engagements. Meaning they like a post, they comment on a post, they make a friend, that they utilize it 10 times in a week. And with that, there is traction that's happening. And if you want acceleration in your life, you need to understand what are you measuring, and then you begin to celebrate the small wins. They're not saying, hey, we need to get 1 billion people on the platform. They're saying, we just want every person. We don't care if it's 100 people, 10 people, or 1 million people. We just want them to come on and have certain level of engagements within this time period. If they do that, then we know we can get to the billion. And that's what I would tell people to think about.
That's good. To
There's
celebrate.
so much in that to unpack, but I'm gonna stop there
Right.
because I don't want to keep talking. I get so passionate when it comes to gaining traction and how to really accelerate and doing so not emotionally, because too often we get too wrapped up in our emotions, but doing so strategically. And I'll stop there.
Right. But I'm hearing you say to celebrate, the small victories, start
Absolutely.
small, start where you're at. And
Absolutely.
a lot of times we want to wait until things are perfect. I'm going to wait until this happens. I'm going to wait until that happens. I'm going to wait until I have enough money to, have whatever amount of my bills paid before. If we keep
Right.
quitting, it
Right.
never happens. So
Right. The stars will never be aligned.
yeah, exactly. So start where you're at,
Or where
start
you are.
today, and then start celebrating, and so when you reach that, you reach your top 5, your top 10, your 15, whatever you're going after, then to celebrate and just keep it moving. Don't
That's
stop,
so
right?
important. It's so important. And I really do hope that if you're somebody who's watching and is going through a situation like this, where it's so difficult, like just like we're saying, just start. I remember a time that was so difficult in my journey that a celebration to me was being able to wake up in the morning on time,
Yeah.
to get myself out of bed on time. Like, just put your feet on the ground. And if I did that, I was celebrating because I did something that was difficult for me to do prior. And that alone begins to change the game. That begins to give you the traction and momentum that you need.
That is so good. I love that. So, in life and in business. So, we're even talking to people maybe in ministry, they could be in the marketplace, they could be even with their kids,
Yes.
a lot of times in relationships. Oh my gosh, we can never wait until things are perfect to get rolling. Just
Right.
start, just do as Nike says, just do it, right?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so give us some more tips on how to accelerate in life and business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let me give you a couple other things here to think about and consider as you're going through your journey. Um, like in any journey, you have to make sure that you are equipping yourself with information. And excuse me, hold on one second because I keep getting these pop-ups here. Uh, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Live TV, right?
Live TV. And it was quit. Perfect. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
And so something that you would want to do and make sure you're confirming is uh, feed yourself with information. There's a way I like to approach this. The number one thing is, like we talked about, the North Star. The North. This is in business or your personal life. Your North. What is your North Star? Next is going to be decision. What decisions are you making? Now that you understand your North Star, now that you understand what's measurable, now you understand how you're going to be moving forward and whether or not you actually have the traction, what are the decisions you're making? Be unafraid to fail. Like, like you have to know, I'm passionate about this. I need to learn more about this. Let me get around some mentors. I love what Mike Murdoch says, the two best ways to learn anything in life is mistakes and mentors. Like,
Wow.
make some mistakes, get some leadership around you, right? Be surrounded in wisdom, right? That's how we end up proceeding. Uh, be okay with having shortcomings and failures along the way because you're learning. A failure is just a way that you know not to do it again. It's stimulus. It's
Right.
information for you, right? So I would say focus on gaining as much information as possible, and then I would caution you. Here you go. This is the caveat to that. Don't be so now focused on taking in information without applying what you're learning.
Wow.
Because a lot of
Okay.
times we become an information junkie versus an application addict.
And do nothing with it.
You're not doing it, right? Come on. Like you would just be taking on information, which is great. And that's part of the journey because you want to be excellent. But then what is next? Right? Then now we got to begin to crystallize. This is the next step in one of my frameworks is again, it starts off with passion, it starts the next into the decision. Then we start talking about crystallization. Now it's meditating on it. Now I love the scripture, and I share this all the time, but I love the scripture that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Right.
And I specifically bring that up because you would have to want to meditate so good that you begin to feel it. And that what I call crystallization. When you begin to crystallize that vision and you're crystallizing where you're going to be, you might not be there in the physical, but your mind can see it and your heart can feel it. That is so much power in of itself because now you're going to begin to act and decide and do based on what you see versus what you feel. And then we start talking about action. Now we're putting action in play. The reason why a lot of people get frustrated, executives get frustrated, people in their personal journeys get frustrated, even depressed, is because their actions do not mirror the outcome, or their actions don't mirror the goal. This is what I want to do, but every day you're doing something totally. I want to lose weight, but you're eating junk food.
Right.
I want to be a massive success, and I'm going to be influential when I speak, but you're watching 3 to 4 hours of television per day. I want to I want to be brilliant in my expertise, but you're reading one book per year, where the average successful person reads at least 12 books per year. So again, are your actions mirroring the goal? And then lastly, I would
That's
say
good.
is alliance. Have an alliance. Have a network. Like, understand the power of your network. Understand that you have to be able to pull people in, because together you're going to go so much further. Uh, and every successful business that I've built has been on the backs of a collective unison of people. The businesses that did not go far were the ones that I did not have the alliances. The alliance will always
Wow.
tell this to all business owners, all individuals. As you're looking to build and accelerate, have alliances. Don't build by yourself. Have the right, I'm the right people now, the right people, have the right people to help you in your journey. And I'll
This
end with
is
this.
good.
I know it's there's so much to this, and I'll tell you what, we're gonna have to do a second session or something.
Yes, we have to. This is
I'm
so
like,
good.
I'm just bubbling over because I want to
I
share.
need for this clock to stop ticking over here. I'm watching, and it just keeps moving. Stop moving so we can get more of this in.
Seriously, oh, there's so much to this. Like, I from a network perspective, like, be okay being the only one in the room, right? Um, don't your circle should not look exactly like you.
Wow.
Your
Yes.
your network should not look exactly like you. If you don't have a network that does not think differently, that does not look differently, you're going to be stagnant and you will never accelerate the way you need to accelerate. The information
So good.
is key. The relationships are so key. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of Dr. Paul Revere?
Yes.
Right? Dr. Paul
Yes.
Revere, many would know he was the industrialist. He was the one that went giving everybody a warning that their town was about to be attacked.
Right.
And he gave everybody notice and, hey guys, let's wake up because we're about to go to war. And so many people know about Paul Revere. But let me mention another name. Do you know who William Dawes is?
I haven't heard of that one.
Never heard of him. William Dawes and Paul Revere were the two people who were instructed to go run through town and let everybody know that they were about to go into battle. Go give warning. And just as you mentioned just now, you haven't heard of William Dawes, and the majority of
Right.
people have not heard of William Dawes, but most of us have heard of Paul Revere. The only difference between the two of them, they were both at the same place at the same exact time. They both received the same amount of information, they both received the same instructions, and they both received the same opportunities. However, we only remember one of them. And the reason we remember Paul Revere is because Paul Revere had a much larger network than William Dawes. Paul
Wow.
Revere was
That's good.
known throughout the town and the city. He understood the power of relationship, and he just went shouting. And because he had relationships and network, the network effect took place. And we know him now in history. Whereas the other person who ran alongside him, we do not know, simply because he focused on a much smaller network.
Wow, that is so good. And as people say, relationships are the new currency. We
It
have
is
to
a
be
currency.
aligned with the right people.
Absolutely.
Talk about that for a second, how important it is to make sure you are aligned with the right people when you're trying to accelerate.
Absolutely. There's so much when it comes to relationships. I love what my friend Simon Bailey says. He says relationships are the currency of the future, and
Mhm.
it is literally the currency of the future. You know, it's mathematics. You want people in your life who can multiply or add to your life. You want to make sure you're staying away from or removing people who are subtracting or dividing from your life.
Right.
You have to be intentional about who is in your circle, because we are, and we've read it, we've heard this, but we are the sum total of the five people we spend the most time with. So the
Wow.
average of the five people that you spend the most time with, what that total sum is, you take that average, that's who you are. How they think is going to be how you think. The average of those five people's income is what your income will be.
Wow.
The average of what those five people's mindset is what your mindset's going to be. So be really intentional and mindful about who am I spending my time with. We have limited time. Time is but a vapor. It's going by. We can never recapture time. It is the most valuable resource we have. And so
I
even
love
here,
that.
being here together, I value what you're doing, Dr. Robeson. I value your mindset. I value all your mediums of communication and excellence and expertise. I value that. Thereby, absolutely, I will. I'm honored to be on the show. I'm honored to be a part of
Oh,
what we're doing,
thank
because
you.
it's all with the network. It's all about relationship.
I love that. Our time is ticking. Gosh, it's like just going fast and fast. But I definitely, yeah, well, you definitely come back. I would love to have you back. And, so many
Absolutely.
different things we could talk. We can actually just dissect this topic into how many more topics
Oh, geez,
to
yeah.
cover. It's amazing.
We can deep dive into this all day long for sure.
Yes. Well, we have viewers from all around the world. I mean, from Africa and UK and Australia, of course, Canada, US. So, will you just, for a couple of minutes, will you just encourage our viewers today?
Absolutely. I would say what I would share with you is, we touched on it earlier today, but start where you are. Start exactly where you are. Uh, I don't believe in happenstance. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe that if you are here, if you are watching, if you are coming across this information, it is a legitimate, appointed time for you. And now, what you do with this information, how you begin to now look at your own thinking and your mindset, you begin to look at your own belief system, now understanding and knowing that our emotions are being derived from our thinking and our belief systems. Like, begin to take action to change that if it has to be changed. If it's going phenomenal, then excellent. Keep building. But if you're wanting to make some adjustments there, as most of us do, it's going to start with your thinking and that belief system, because it will change the way you feel. The way you feel is going to change the way you think. The way you think is going to change your actions. The way you act is going to change your outcomes. And it's going to be a full, repeatable cycle. And so a lot of times I'll ask, why do we keep going around the same mountain? Could it be that you've adopted the same mindset of your ancestors? Could it be that you're thinking the way your dad thought, or your mother thought, or your great grandparents thought, and you're dealing with the same things they dealt with? But the moment you break that pattern, the moment you break the way that this thinking used to be, and begin to shift into a different level, a different lane, you'll begin to see that outcome. So always focus back onto your thinking.
That is so good. Thank you so much again, Dio Pouerie. And we just appreciate you. We love you. And please come back again soon. And I know that someone is definitely blessed by today's broadcast. Remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. Thank you all. See you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
So good. Thank you again. I just appreciate you speaking blessings over your life, over your family. And I know God has amazing things in store for you. And I just thank you for allowing me to be along for the ride with you and your beautiful wife, Takoa. So thank you
Absolutely.
again. All right.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Later, guys. Bye.